This is the Taung child. It was found here in South Africa by this man Raymond Dart. He claimed that this species, Australopithecus africanus, was the missing link between apes and mankind.
Okay, I'm Shanice Sly, and I'm here interviewing Dr. Troutman on any information she knows about the Down child because she has some previous experience with him. So here's some questions. Could you give us any background information on what you were doing in South Africa?
Okay. In 2002, I was a senior Fulbright scholar in South Africa, and I was placed in research development, and I helped faculty and grad students to conduct research, and I also taught classes. So I wanted to have that part of engaging with students, and so I taught undergraduate courses as well as graduate courses.
Okay. And how were you introduced to the Down child?
So I lived in the Northwest province, which is a former homeland. And within this former homeland is a historically black university, University of Northwest at Mabatu. I taught there for a little bit over a year. My colleagues traveled to the U.S. and I was able to meet with them, to socialize with them, and so we developed some solidarity. I would take them to my church, drive around to places locally, and they reciprocated as a result. So one of my colleagues said that he had a great trip planned for my two children and myself, and that we were supposed to be ready on a Saturday at one particular time. And so this was a special Saturday that we were going on a trip. And so my colleague and his wife picked us up. My two children and I went on this trip, and it turned out that they wanted to share something special with us. They wanted to show us the site where the Taung child was found. Because there is a building where you can go in and you can read about it, look at other artifacts as well, and then see a replica of a Taung child. And that's how I was first introduced to it.
What did you learn about the Down child?
It didn't register with me at that particular time. I didn't really understand the significance of it. And in retrospect, I have a lot of appreciation that my colleagues understood the depth of this particular site of the Taung child. And it's only in later years after teaching about it that I have come to understand the significance. It was very, very apropos timing, because there was a celebration in the Taung village. I may not have the title of the village correct. Nonetheless, there was a special celebration on that same day that we went to the site. And people were dressed in traditional garb, and a huge celebration. The king was brought out in a lot of pomp and glory, as well as his wives. And there was dancing, there was food, and just a very joyous occasion. And so we had the opportunity to interact with people that saw themselves as related to this Taung child.
Interesting. What were your thoughts before and after visiting the site?
In retrospect, I understand very, very much more richly and much more deeply about this particular site and about the Taung child in particular. So the whole notion of African contributions to the world, not readily acknowledged and not broadly acknowledged. And so this is one way that a repertoire of information has been disseminated and collected about Africans' significance. And it's not necessarily the dark continent.
Our last question, what is your opinion on the Taung child?
I was very saddened to read about Raymond Dart and his treatment, even though he was fully convinced that he had found ancestors, relatives to Homo sapiens. In fact, he generated the genus for the Australopithecus africanus. And in terms of all of the stress that he endured, I was really saddened by that. Nonetheless, Dart's face was restored and Dart's work was restored, and all of the naysayers were shown to be wrong. And so I think that we have some complication there in terms of people looking at it in terms of hominin and then hominid. And so my focus is on hominin and this idea that we all come from one place, we're all connected, and the Taung child has a very prominent position in all of that.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. I didn't say as much as I said yesterday.